What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Shane Walters here with Sharkpool Gaming, and I wanted to sit down with you guys and kind of go over the Final Fantasy 15 demo that I just got done finishing earlier today. And I compiled some of my thoughts, and I wanted to run them by you guys and try to make sense of where this game is heading and the direction that it's taking. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get this started. I'm going to try to keep it as concise as I can because I've got a lot to say. And I kind of want to keep it kind of compressed because I could talk for hours about this demo. We could dissect it little by little, but let's get started. For the overall feel of the demo, like Tetsu Nomura has said multiple times in the development of this game, that he wanted a modern fantasy game where modern day life clashes with fantasy and creates a unique world. And this works incredibly well. In this demo, you get a taste of that because you start off, you camp out in these little sections throughout the map, and there are enemies throughout the map. There's gigantic beasts, there's so much to look at that's, you know, classic Final Fantasy, but then you see a road, you see cars, you see a gas station that is very similar to like a normal gas station that you would see down the street. And that's really awesome because like it could have, you know, it could totally kick you out of the experience if it was done incorrectly, but I think that he did a really good job and his team did a really good job with taking those two different elements and like putting them together to create one cohesive universe, which is really cool. The world feels great to explore, by the way. Speaking of that, it was very fun to walk around Duscae. There was a lot of things to look at and a lot of enemies to fight. The day-night cycles did make it more interesting though, because in the day, you know, you could see everything. There was, you know, normal enemy mobs, but at night, goblins come around and enemies seemed like they were stronger. And there was one time where I got kind of grouped up and things didn't end too well for me, just to say the least. The enemy variation was just enough to keep the sense of wonder going during my 2 hours that I took to beat. I understand it's a demo, so there wasn't that much enemy variation, but it was enough. It was enough to keep me interested. Invisible walls do suck. During my time with Duscae, there was some lakes and some other things that had some invisible walls that I couldn't go and see and do like I wanted to, but I understand it's a demo, so that's fine for me. The demo has its quirks that remind you that the game is still being worked on. There are some bugs, there are some janky controls and whatnot that reminds you that this game is still in the early stages of development. So, I mean, it's okay, but this is a game that I see as more of like alpha, beta, somewhere around there. But this is a real alpha beta because they released this to get feedback, let people know what was coming, and to, you know, bounce ideas off of the fans. And it kicks the trend of the current, like, oh, here's our beta, our open beta, when it's really just a demo. Whereas this demo is more like a beta because you're kind of playtesting it, and people have been having their voices heard all over the internet since its release yesterday. And I think this is a really cool thing that people need to start doing, releasing actual betas and getting actual feedback and putting actual work in, because we're still early enough in this development cycle to where changes can be made because there's no solid release date yet. I've been saying for a while that I expect it to come out in December of this year, but seeing the game and how it was running through the demo, I really want them to release it in 2016. I really want them to push it back and just finish the game because I want this to be good, and the foundation that's there is so good. It's so good. So let's move into the mechanics. The combat is very fun. I had so much fun playing with the combat because you can, you know, customize the weapons for your combinations, change that up to where you can open with a small sword, a lance, or a big sword. And you know, it changes your abilities as well. Kind of like Crisis Core meets Birth by Sleep in the way that you handle your abilities, because you scroll through them and you hit it with triangle. So that's pretty cool. I really like that. But the thing about the combat that is so different, and I think that works really well because it's different, is the MP system. Now, the MP system for the combat is almost like a stamina style system, because you can expend your MP all the way through battle to do the teleportation attack, costs MP, to use your abilities, cost MP, to defend and block and counter, cost MP. And when your MP empties, you are practically useless. You enter a stasis state, and when you enter that state, you're practically useless. So the MP is a good kind of it keeps you in check, and it makes sure that you're monitoring that and you're not like going all in, all out on these monsters when you really have to, it's really more of a stamina system, and I really like it because it adds a different level of complexity to the combat system that wouldn't be there otherwise. If you could just, teleport everywhere all the time, use your abilities all the time, there would be no reason not to do that. So it makes you monitor that MP where you're defending. If you're running low on MP, you can't defend, because if you do, you'll enter that stasis state. So it's really cool. The 15 is going to be the biggest departure from traditional Final Fantasy ever. It is so different than anything we've ever seen in Final Fantasy history. And that's a good thing, though, because it feels like the natural progression of Final Fantasy as an RPG. Little game mechanics help bring the game into the new era. And, some things that you can take into consideration: the open world, the seamless combat, the quests actually complete once the objectives are met, so you don't have to go back and forth between the quest givers, or if you found the side quest on the side of the road, you don't have to go back there. It just completes. So there's little mechanics that clearly have been influenced on the evolution of RPGs over the past 10 years, 20 years. Because Final Fantasy has always been a traditional Final Fantasy RPG game that, borrowed from Dragon Quest. Well, this Final Fantasy it's really the natural progression of things, because I see them taking pages from recent RPGs such as Dragon Age Inquisition with your companions, and how you go about in an open space. Xenoblade Chronicles with there's random loot everywhere, but you don't drop down to pick it up. You just kind of run over it, hit a button, and you have it. And also with the open world as well, and and also Kingdom Hearts. Tetsu Nomura he was the Kingdom Hearts director and all that, and so his influence definitely helped that progression, take a stand and change the formula up. But the thing about this game is, even though how different it is and how the evolution has changed this game into something completely different that we're used to, it still is a Final Fantasy game. It still has those roots of, you walk in, you see a Chocobo Ranch, you see Chocobos, you're like, oh man, this is a Final Fantasy game, and that's what's so awesome about it. It is this perfect, it's like Super Saiyan 3 Final Fantasy. It just went up a couple stages. It's great. I love it. It's what needed to happen, because Final Fantasy in the past couple installments has been, I don't need to remind you how they've been doing, but I think 15 is going to rip out a page from RPGs in the past 10 years and put them all together and present it with Final Fantasy elements, and it's going to be great. I am color me excited. I am so pumped for this game. But let's talk about the things that needed to be fixed. I played with the English voiceovers, and they were not bad. They weren't as bad as I was expecting them to be. The only one that I think needs improvement is the main character, Noctis. His English voice actor, his voice kind of didn't match his body, if that makes sense, because the opening cutscenes, like, it kind of sounds like he has a higher pitched voice, but when he actually talks, like in complete sentences, he sounds like, a brute. Like, he sounds like he's huge, like he's got this really deep voice. But I don't know, maybe if they brought up the octaves or something, I don't know, whatever. But maybe the main character needs a little bit of improvement, kind of bring it up to match his body. I'm not really sure. It just didn't feel right to me. But on the main character, Noctis, completely, I like him. that is a Sharkpool endorsement right there. The main character, I was expecting him to be another broody, lightning clone like they've been doing for a while. But it turns out that he is more an anti-hero, kind of like Brave Fencer Musashi was back in the PlayStation 1 game. Which is good, because he's kind of sarcastic, and he's kind of lazy. He's kind of like, God, like, you know, I don't want to do this, you know, blah, blah, blah. You know, but it's really cool because it brings in better character interactions, because, you know, he's not super broody, but he's not like Titus, you know. You know, he's kind of like his own character, and I'm glad that they finally broke the mold, I guess, for their typical main characters. He's still kind of broody, but not to the extent of like Lightning, where, you know, you want to just punch him in the face with, you know, whatever. But he's kind of an anti-hero, but that's just from the demo. So I have no idea if that changes in the full game, if they plan on going that route the whole time, which I'm totally okay with. But other than that, let's talk about the jumping. Just the little nitpicky thing of mine. The jumping is awful. It is atrocious. Oh my god. Like, don't even put it in the game if that's what it's gonna be. Like, he jumps and he's like 2 feet off the ground, and it just looks bad. The animation's bad. I'm just like, oh god. Like, don't put it in the game. Like, just don't let me jump if that's what it's gonna look like. But I'm sure that's on the list of things. Like, they were just like, just make him jump a little bit, whatever. Sure, that'll be fixed. The camera wasn't really an issue when exploring, but the camera was more of an issue when fighting, because I would lock onto an enemy, and enemies are very, very, you know, they move around a lot. They're, you know, so when they're moving around a lot and you're locked on, it doesn't follow your enemy. It kind of just locks on in the direction that they were at when you locked on, and then they run off, and it doesn't follow them. So you're still facing the same direction, and you're trying to hit X to attack them, but they're already, you know, out of your line of vision. So your character's following them, but the camera's not. So I really hope they fix that before, you know, the final game is shipped. I want to take the camera and just zoom it out, like how Dragon Age Inquisition did when you got into combat. You know, it really isn't. When you have camera problems, that's a very deep problem, and even if a good game can be ruined by a bad camera system. So really, I mean, I understand that, you know, it's still a demo, so hey, I'm praying, I'm hoping Tetsunomura probably watches my videos, so don't you worry, he's listening to me. More weapon variations, but this is also little things, you know, I'm sure, because it was a demo. We only had about four different weapon types. I'm sure there's gonna be plenty, but what I would like to see is lots, like a lot of different weapon types, because you have about 4 slots that you can customize and swap which weapon you kind of pull out of thin air to attack with, and you kind of can change the combinations, and it changes how you fight. It's really cool, and I want a lot of those to kind of make people's experiences differently, because I would love to just stack them with lances, just like lance after lance after lance after lance. They had 2 lances, which was cool, but I do want lots of weapon variations. Maybe that, and also I would like a normal dodge roll button, because so far you have to have the L1 or left bumper held down, and that's when you're in your defending stance, and you hit circle and you kind of teleport out of the way. I would much rather have just hit circle and roll out of the way, like a Monster Hunter or Dark Souls, kind of, you know, just roll out of the way. I would like for just a normal roll button. And then more companion banter and unique dialogue when exploring. And I know that that's probably another thing that the demo, you know, it's just a demo, so there's not going to be a lot of audio files for your companions, but that's one thing that I would like to see more of, is more unique banter between your group, and more unique dialogue, like after battles. I heard maybe like the 2 or 3 of the same post-battle, you know, lines for a while, and I was like, okay. Like, I understand it's a demo, so, I mean, that's fine. But those are the things that I would like to see improved. You know, this game is still very far away. And so I understand that, you know, progress can be made, which is awesome. But really looking forward to this. This is confirmed my hype. I'm super hyped. Like, I'm so excited. Like, oh god, it's gonna be great. Characters kind of give me a. If you've ever played the game The Bouncer for the PlayStation 2, that was a Square Enix game as well, or Squaresoft back in the day. It gives me kind of a Bouncer feel. I kind of dig it because I like that game. So I'm really excited. God, I'm so excited. Like, this game put a smile on my face when I loaded it up. I was just like, oh my god, like, this is great. So just take your time. Like, that is my message to Square Enix. Like, take your time and do this right. Because this foundation, like, if that demo, that's a solid foundation. Like, that proved to me that this is going to be a good game. So they just need to fix the little quirks that, you know, because it's a demo, they just need to fix that. And, you know, just the little things, and maybe that camera. If they can fix that camera, we'll be alright. But other than that, it's a great demo. If you can, get your hands on one. If you've got a friend who got typo, tell them to bring it over, tell her to bring it over, and just play it. It's like an hour, 2 hours, sit around, you know, watch you fight a behemoth. It's awesome. Also, there's a summon in the demo. Won't ruin it. You're gonna have to go find it. Really cool though. It may be the coolest summon animation it's ever since like Quetzalcoatl from Final Fantasy VIII. Yeah. So, with that, my name is Shane Walters. Thank you guys for watching.